Welcome to the war. Introducing resistance. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a book that truly changed my perspective on what it means to pursue a calling, to create, or to simply live a life aligned with your deepest aspirations. We're talking about Steven Pressfield's The War of Art. Now, if you've ever felt that nagging pull to write that book, start that business, learn that skill, or commit to a healthier lifestyle, only to find yourself inexplicably stuck, procrastinating, or feeling blocked, then this book is for you. Pressfield gives a name to that invisible force holding us back: resistance. He doesn't mince words. Pressfield tells us that resistance isn't some vague psychological quirk or a personal failing. It's a real, tangible, universal force, as natural as gravity, yet utterly insidious. It's the enemy of all creative endeavors, the adversary of ambition, and the relentless opponent of anyone trying to move from a lower state to a higher one. Imagine a dark, unseen energy that exists solely to keep you from doing your most important work, from becoming who you're truly meant to be. That's resistance. Pressfield, a writer who endured decades of his own struggles before achieving success, understands this enemy intimately. He frames it as a literal war, because that's what it feels like. It's a daily battle against an opponent that is clever, ruthless, and knows all your weaknesses. Resistance will use fear, self-doubt, procrastination, rationalization, and distraction, anything, to keep you from sitting down and doing the work. For us in our 40s and 50s, this concept hits home especially hard. We've often accumulated dreams over the years, perhaps a novel we always wanted to write, a business we longed to launch, or a passion we put on hold for family or career. We feel that inner tug, that longing to express something deeper, to contribute more authentically. Yet how often do we find ourselves scrolling social media instead of writing, cleaning the garage instead of starting that project, or talking ourselves out of pursuing a big idea before we even begin? That's resistance at work. It's crucial to understand that resistance is impersonal. It doesn't care who you are or what your specific dream is. It simply opposes any act of creation, any step toward personal growth, any movement from comfort to courage. It's the force that wants you to stay exactly where you are, to remain an amateur, to never push past your perceived limits. This book is a wake-up call. It's not about blame. It's about identification. Once you can name the enemy, once you understand its tactics, you can start to fight back. Pressfield doesn't promise that the fight will be easy. In fact, he promises the opposite. The greater your calling, the more significant your potential contribution, the stronger resistance will be. But he gives us the tools, the mindset, and the courage to meet it head-on. The War of Art is a battle manual for the creative soul. It teaches us that the act of sitting down and doing the work, no matter how small, is a profound act of defiance against resistance. It's a declaration of self-authorship, a commitment to your higher purpose. It's about understanding that the biggest obstacles aren't external, they're within. So, as we explore Pressfield's insights, prepare to recognize your own battles. Prepare to feel a shift in how you view your struggles. This isn't just about getting things done. It's about reclaiming your life from the grip of this invisible adversary and finally answering your true calling. Let's get ready to declare war on resistance. How does this invisible force actually show up in our daily lives? Steven Pressfield dedicates a significant part of The War of Art to laying bare the manifold manifestations of resistance. He explains that resistance is a master of disguise, appearing in countless forms, often convincing us that our internal struggles are simply personal flaws or legitimate reasons to avoid our work. Think about the feeling. You have a vision, a project, a calling, something important you want to do. And then the strange pushback starts. It might be procrastination. This is perhaps the most common and easily recognizable face of resistance. We endlessly delay, put off, and find a million other urgent tasks to do, instead of the one thing that truly matters. We tell ourselves we'll start tomorrow, next week, or when the conditions are perfect. Self-doubt. Resistance whispers in our ear, telling us we're not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough. It brings up past failures, amplifies our insecurities, and convinces us that our work isn't worthy. Fear. Fear of failure, yes, but also fear of success. Fear of ridicule, fear of judgment, fear of standing out. Fear of not being perfect. Resistance uses fear to keep us small and safe, clinging to the known. Perfectionism. This often feels virtuous, doesn't it? I just need to make it perfect before I release it. But Pressfield argues perfectionism is often resistance in disguise, a way to avoid actually finishing and putting our work out into the world. It's an excuse to never be done. Rationalization. Resistance is a master of logical-sounding excuses. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. The kids need me. I'm too tired. It's not the right moment. These often feel legitimate, but they are just sophisticated ways to avoid the discomfort of the work. Distraction and addiction. Anything that pulls our attention away from the work. Social media, endless news consumption, binge watching, even seemingly productive busy work can be a tool of resistance. It wants to keep us occupied, but not truly productive. Criticism of others' success. Have you ever felt a pang of resentment when someone else achieves what you aspire to? That's resistance trying to turn your focus outward, away from your own potential, by convincing you that someone else's win diminishes your chances. Victimhood. Resistance loves to convince us that we are helpless, that external circumstances are conspiring against us, and that we are powerless to act. This absolves us of responsibility and keeps us stuck. Drama. Creating unnecessary chaos in our lives, whether personal or professional, can be a subtle way. Resistance ensures we're too preoccupied with external turmoil to focus on our internal creative work. The key, Pressfield tells us, is to recognize these manifestations for what they are. Not personal failings, but the direct attacks of an external, impersonal force. Once you name it, you can stop internalizing it as your own inadequacy. You can say, there's resistance again, trying to keep me from my work. This simple act of identification is incredibly liberating. It allows you to create a necessary distance from the fear and the excuses, and to choose to act in spite of them. Understanding how resistance shows up is the first step in disarming it. It's like knowing your enemy's playbook. When procrastination hits, you can say, "That's resistance." When self-doubt paralyzes you, you can say, "That's resistance." This awareness empowers you to push through, to call its bluff, and to show up anyway. Resistance's target. We've explored what resistance is and how it manifests. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. What exactly is resistance's target? Stephen Pressfield makes a profound assertion in The War of Art. Resistance doesn't attack trivial pursuits or shallow desires. Instead, it specifically, relentlessly, and ferociously attacks your calling, your most important work, and anything that moves you toward your higher self. Think about it. You rarely feel intense resistance when you're settling for less, when you're wasting time on distractions, or when you're engaging in activities that don't challenge you. You don't usually procrastinate on watching TV or mindlessly scrolling through social media. No. The full force of resistance comes crashing down precisely when you decide to sit down and write that novel, to launch that meaningful project, to pursue that dream business, to commit to that difficult but rewarding spiritual practice, or to make a deep, lasting change in your life. Why? Because, as Pressfield explains, resistance is inherently negative, a force of entropy and stagnation. It seeks to keep you in the comfortable, known territory of the amateur, the non-doer, the unfulfilled. It opposes creation, growth, evolution, and courage. Anything that asks you to transcend your current limitations, to step into the arena, to express your unique gift, that's where resistance plants its flag. This means that the very intensity of the resistance you feel is often an indicator of the importance of the work you're trying to do. If it's truly your calling, if it's something that aligns with your higher purpose, then resistance will show up in full force. It's like a spiritual alarm bell ringing. The more scared you are, the more significant the work is for your soul. Perhaps it's the novel you've always wanted to write, but life got in the way. Or the entrepreneurial venture that feels risky but incredibly fulfilling. Or the artistic expression that feels vulnerable but essential. Or the commitment to a deeper spiritual practice that demands discipline and self-confrontation. These are the sacred acts, the ones that resistance will fight tooth and nail to prevent. Pressfield says that when we embark on these journeys, we are literally acting on the vertical. We are striving to climb, to ascend, to reach higher ground, both creatively and personally. Resistance, being a horizontal force, wants to keep us flat, stagnant, and comfortable on the ground. The beautiful paradox here is that the very strength of your resistance tells you how close you are to something profound. It's a sign that you're on the right track, that you're knocking on the door of your true potential. So don't let its ferocity deter you. Let it inspire you. Let it confirm that you are pursuing something worthy. Understanding that resistance targets your most important work helps you reframe your struggles. It's not that you're weak. It's that your work is powerful. It's not that you're lazy. It's that your calling is so significant it evokes a primal opposition. This realization empowers you to push through, knowing that every act of showing up, every moment you choose to work despite the fear, is a victory in the war for your soul. Your calling is waiting. Resistance is just trying to stop you from answering. Resistance is invisible, but real. Having grasped the insidious nature of resistance and its specific targets, let's now confront a crucial, yet often overlooked aspect of this enemy. Resistance is invisible, but undeniably real. It's a non-physical force. Stephen Pressfield is adamant about this in The War of Art. He tells us not to dismiss it as a mere metaphor or a psychological quirk. Instead, he urges us to recognize it as a powerful, palpable energy that exists in the world, actively working against our creative and spiritual efforts. Think about it. We've all felt it, haven't we? That strange paralysis when you sit down to start that project. That sudden urge to check email, clean the house, or reorganize your desk when the moment of truth arrives. That inexplicable wave of fatigue or self-doubt that washes over you just as you're about to commit. It's not tangible, you can't point to it, but its effects are profoundly real and disruptive. Pressfield argues that this invisible force isn't just within us as a character flaw, it's an external, universal phenomenon. It's a force of nature, like gravity, that acts on everyone who attempts to create, to grow, or to transcend their current state. He likens it to a negative spiritual energy, a force of entropy that resists creation and evolution. This understanding is critical because it shifts our perspective. Instead of internalizing every bout of procrastination or self-doubt as a personal failing, we can recognize it as the predictable attack of an external adversary. Pressfield is intentionally provocative here, inviting us to treat resistance as a malevolent entity. Why? Because it helps us objectify it. If you believe your procrastination is just you being lazy, you're more likely to feel shame and give up. But if you see it as resistance trying to trick you, you can call its bluff, defy it, and choose to act anyway. It gives you an external enemy to fight, rather than an internal weakness to wallow in. This non-physical nature means resistance can be everywhere and manifest in any form. It doesn't need a body. It works through our thoughts, our fears, our distractions. It can be the urge to check social media, the sudden craving for a snack, the compulsion to clean the house, or the overwhelming sense of dread about starting. All of these are its subtle yet potent weapons. The key to combating an invisible enemy is awareness and consistent action. Awareness. Learn to recognize its subtle whispers and its obvious roadblocks. When you feel that inexplicable pull away from your work, ask yourself, is this resistance? Externalize it. Give it a name. Treat it as something separate from yourself. This helps you fight it without damaging your self-worth. Act anyway. Since it's non-physical, you can't fight it with physical strength. You fight it by simply showing up and doing the work. Its power is in stopping you from starting. Once you start, its power diminishes. Understanding resistance as an invisible but real force is a game changer. It shifts the blame from our inherent inadequacy to a universal challenge that every creative person faces. This realization empowers us to stop judging ourselves so harshly and instead focus our energy on the practical strategies needed to overcome it. The war is real, the enemy is unseen, but the victory is achievable, one disciplined step at a time. We've established that resistance is a real, non-physical force targeting our most important work. Now let's drill down into its most dangerous characteristic. Resistance is insidious. It operates through clever tactics and myriad disguises. Steven Pressfield warns us that this enemy isn't always obvious. It doesn't always roar at you. Sometimes it whispers, subtly manipulating your thoughts and emotions, making its sabotage feel like your own rational choices or unavoidable circumstances. Think about the most common excuses we use to avoid our work. I don't have enough time. I'm not feeling inspired. I need more training/money/equipment. It's not the right moment. My family needs me. Pressfield argues that these often legitimate-sounding reasons are frequently the elaborate disguises of resistance. It uses our own fears, our desire for comfort, and our good intentions against us. Here's how resistance gets clever. Rationalization. It provides seemingly logical arguments for why you can't or shouldn't do the work. It makes procrastination feel justified. Fear feel prudent, and inaction seem like a responsible choice. It can even convince you that your lack of motivation is a sign that you're not meant to do the work. Self-doubt masquerading as humility. Resistance can trick you into thinking you're being humble or realistic by focusing on your weaknesses and telling you you're not good enough. It feels like self-awareness, but it's actually a paralysis tactic. Perfectionism as a shield. This is a big one. It's not about making something excellent. It's about making it perfect, so you never have to actually finish it and expose it to the world. It sounds like high standards, but it's just resistance keeping you from shipping. Distraction as urgent tasks. Resistance fills your schedule with busy work, low-priority tasks, or endless research. You feel productive, but you're constantly avoiding the real work that scares you. Cleaning the garage, reorganizing your files, or endless social media scrolling all feel like doing something, but they're just diversions. Victimhood and blame. It encourages you to externalize your problems. My boss is unfair. The market is too tough. My family doesn't support me. This absolves you of responsibility and keeps you powerless to act. Seeking external validation. Resistance pushes you to seek approval, praise, or recognition before you've even done the work. This drains your energy and makes you dependent on others, pulling you away from the internal drive to create. The dreamer trap. Resistance loves to keep you in the fantasy stage. You talk endlessly about your big ideas, plan meticulously, but never actually start the messy, uncomfortable work of execution. You get a dopamine hit from the idea, and resistance wins by preventing the reality. The key to combating resistance's insidiousness is relentless self-awareness and brutal honesty. You have to learn to recognize the feeling when resistance is hijacking your thoughts. Question your excuses. When you feel that urge to procrastinate or the voice of self-doubt, ask yourself, is this a real reason, or is this resistance? Identify the discomfort. Resistance often works by making the idea of starting feel incredibly uncomfortable. Acknowledge that feeling, but don't let it stop you. Know its disguises. Learn the common ways it shows up for you. Is it perfectionism? Distraction? Rationalization? Act anyway. The ultimate antidote to resistance's cleverness is simply to show up and do the work, regardless of how you feel or what excuses your mind conjures up. By understanding resistance's insidious tactics, you can strip away its disguises and expose it for what it is, an enemy seeking to keep you from your purpose. This knowledge empowers you to stop fighting yourself and start fighting the real enemy. Recognize its tricks and then defy them with action. Turning pro, the mindset shift. This isn't about getting paid for your work, though that can be a result. It's a profound shift in attitude, a declaration that you are serious about your calling and that you will show up no matter what. Think about the difference between an amateur and a professional in any field. An amateur waits for inspiration, works when they feel like it, and often makes excuses. A professional, on the other hand, shows up consistently, treats their work as a job, and doesn't let feelings or external circumstances dictate their commitment. Pressfield argues that to conquer resistance, you must adopt the latter mindset for your creative work, your personal growth, and anything that aligns with your true calling. This turning pro is a shift from being a dabbler to being a doer. It means you don't wait for inspiration. Professionals know inspiration is a fickle mistress. They show up at their desk, or studio, or gym, or meditation cushion, at the appointed time, ready to work, whether they feel like it or not. They trust that inspiration will eventually find them if they're showing up. You show up every day. Consistency is the amateur's biggest enemy and the professional's greatest ally. Resistance thrives on sporadic effort. The professional commits to regular hours, treating their creative work as a job, not a hobby. You play for keeps. This isn't a side project you'll abandon when it gets hard. This is serious. You've declared your intention to yourself and the universe. There's no plan B. You detach from the outcome. The professional focuses on the process, on doing the work to the best of their ability, not on whether it will be a bestseller, make them famous, or get them rich. They understand that their job is to do the work. The results are out of their control. You embrace humility and self-mastery. Professionals know they are always learning. They welcome feedback, seek to improve their craft, and are disciplined in their habits. They master themselves first. You externalize resistance. They understand that fear and procrastination are external forces, not internal failings. They don't let these feelings stop them. Turning pro isn't about quitting your day job or making money from your passion, though it can lead to that. It's about a mental commitment. It's about taking your innate talents and your deepest desires seriously. It means saying, "This matters, and I will show up for it consistently." When you turn pro, you send a powerful signal to resistance. I'm not playing anymore. I'm serious. You can throw everything you have at me, but I will still show up. This shift in mindset disarms many of resistance's favorite tactics. If you're going to show up anyway, then procrastination loses its power. If you're going to work regardless of inspiration, then self-doubt has less hold. This is the ultimate counterpunch in the war of art. It's a declaration of your unwavering commitment to your highest self. It's not always glamorous, often it's just grinding, but it's the only way to consistently overcome resistance and bring your unique gifts into the world. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop being an amateur in your own life and truly turn pro? Having committed to turning pro, let's delve deeper into the specific qualities that define this mindset. Stephen Pressfield outlines a crucial set of the professional's traits: humility, patience, and discipline. These aren't just admirable virtues. They are the bedrock habits and attitudes that professionals cultivate to consistently overcome resistance, whereas amateurs often lack them, leading to stagnation. Think about the most successful people you know, not just in terms of wealth, but in terms of sustained contribution and deep work. What do they embody? First, there's humility. This isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less and thinking more about the work itself. The professional knows they are merely a conduit for the work, a vessel through which creativity flows. They don't have an inflated ego about their talent or their ideas. They understand that their job is to serve the work, to get out of its way, and to learn continuously. An amateur, on the other hand, often suffers from ego, believing they're already brilliant, resistant to feedback, or above the tedious aspects of the craft. Humility allows the professional to put in the necessary hours, to accept constructive criticism, and to keep learning, even after achieving success. It allows them to embrace the fact that they are always a student, always capable of improvement. Next, there's patience. Resistance loves to promise quick fixes, instant gratification, and overnight success. Amateurs fall for this, getting discouraged when results don't appear immediately. The professional knows that true mastery and significant achievement take time, often years of consistent, unglamorous effort. They understand that the work itself is a long game. They are willing to put in the deliberate practice, to endure plateaus, and to wait for the fruits of their labor to ripen. They are not in a hurry, because their focus is on the process, not just the outcome. This patience allows them to endure the long, often lonely, stretches of work where no one is watching and no immediate rewards are apparent. Finally, and perhaps most critically, there's discipline. This is the professional's greatest weapon against resistance. Discipline is the commitment to show up every day, at the appointed time, and do the work, regardless of how you feel, what external circumstances are, or whether inspiration strikes. It's about establishing rituals and routines that protect your creative time and energy. An amateur waits for motivation. A professional acts with discipline. They treat their creative work as a job, a sacred obligation to themselves and their calling. This means setting boundaries, saying no to distractions, and pushing through discomfort. It's the consistent, repeated act of sitting down and putting in the hours. Cultivating these traits means embracing the mundane, accepting that much of the work is unglamorous and repetitive. Structuring your time. Dedicate specific non-negotiable blocks for your creative work. Building routines. Create habits that support your daily practice. Ignoring the noise. Don't get caught up in external validation or comparison. Learning from setbacks. Use failures as data, not as reasons to quit. By consciously developing humility, patience, and discipline, you strip resistance of its power. You become an unshakable force, impervious to its tricks and temptations. These traits aren't just about productivity. They are about character. They are the true marks of someone who is serious about their calling and determined to bring their unique gift to the world. Building on the professional's traits, let's zero in on the single most crucial habit for conquering resistance. The professional shows up, embracing the power of consistency. Stephen Pressfield hammers this point home in The War of Art. Against the cunning, insidious force of resistance, the ultimate weapon is the simple, unwavering act of showing up at your desk, or studio, or workshop, or wherever your work happens, every single day. Think about it. Resistance thrives on irregularity, on sporadic effort. It loves it when you wait for inspiration, or for the perfect mood, or for the stars to align. Because those moments are rare, and while you're waiting, resistance wins. It keeps you from the work. The professional, however, doesn't wait. The professional has a job, and that job is to show up. This means establishing a sacred ritual of working. It could be an hour every morning before work, a few hours every evening, or dedicating specific days to your creative pursuit. The exact time isn't as important as the consistency of the commitment. When that time arrives, you sit down and you do the work, period. You don't negotiate with yourself. You don't check email. You don't scroll social media. You don't clean the house. You simply show up and engage with your craft. Pressfield argues that this act of showing up is the most powerful act of defiance against resistance. When you consistently show up, you send a clear message to this unseen enemy. I am serious. This work matters. You can throw all your fears and distractions at me, but I will still put in the time. This consistency gradually erodes resistance's power. It learns that its tricks won't stop you. The beauty of showing up consistently is that it builds momentum. Even if you only get a little bit done, even if the work feels terrible, the act of showing up builds a habit. It keeps the creative channels open. It tells your subconscious that this work is important. And often, simply by showing up, you eventually trick inspiration into arriving. As Chuck Close famously said, "Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work." Pressfield is clear. Showing up isn't about feeling good. It's about doing the work. You might sit down feeling tired, uninspired, or full of self-doubt. That's fine. Those feelings are resistance. Your job is to ignore them, to push past them, and to put in the time. The act of sitting down is the victory. The quality of the output on any given day is secondary to the act of showing up. How do you cultivate this power of consistency? Set a specific time and place. Treat it like a non-negotiable appointment. Start small. Even 15 to 30 minutes of focused work is a win if it's consistent. Don't break the chain. Mark off each day you show up. The longer the chain, the more momentum you build. Forgive yourself for missed days. If you miss a day, don't let it derail you. Just show up the next day. Focus on the act, not the outcome. The goal is to show up, not to create a masterpiece every time. The professional shows up. It's the simplest, most profound, and most effective strategy against resistance. It's the daily reaffirmation of your commitment to your calling. By mastering this single habit, you will unlock a profound level of creative output and personal fulfillment that an amateur can only dream of. So decide when you'll show up, and then do it every single day. Now, let's talk about a deeper level of commitment that truly defines the professional. In Steven Pressfield's view, the professional plays for keeps, going all in with no retreat. This isn't just about daily discipline. It's about making an unambiguous, visceral commitment to your calling, a declaration that there is no plan B, no escape route, and no acceptable alternative to doing your work. Think about the amateur. They have their creative pursuit as a hobby, something they'll do if they have time, if it feels good, or if it doesn't interfere with their real life. There's always an escape hatch, a way out when resistance inevitably makes the work difficult. Pressfield argues that this lack of ultimate commitment is precisely what resistance exploits. If you have an exit strategy, resistance will ensure you take it. The professional, however, burns the boats. They commit fully. They decide that this work, this calling, is not just a part of their life. It is their life, or at least a non-negotiable central pillar of it. This doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job or risking everything immediately. It's a mindset of unwavering commitment, an internal declaration that you are not going to retreat, no matter how strong resistance becomes. This playing for keeps means making it a non-negotiable priority. Your creative work isn't something you do if you have time. It's something you make time for, consistently. Accepting the costs. You understand that pursuing your calling will require sacrifices, time, comfort, perhaps social engagements, or even financial security. You accept these costs as part of the deal. Embracing vulnerability. To go all in means exposing yourself to the possibility of failure, criticism, and rejection. But the professional accepts this as part of the journey. No exit strategy. You remove the temptation to quit when it gets hard. You decide that giving up is simply not an option. Internalizing the work. Your identity becomes deeply intertwined with your creative pursuit. It's not just something you do, it's a fundamental part of who you are. When you play for keeps, you send an unmistakable signal to resistance. You strip it of its power to tempt you with escape routes. It realizes its usual tricks. Fear, procrastination, rationalization won't work because you've truly committed. This profound commitment unlocks a deep wellspring of resilience and inner strength. You find a way forward because giving up simply isn't an option. Pressfield points to artists and entrepreneurs who, despite immense hardships, never gave up on their calling. They played for keeps. They saw their work not just as a choice, but as a sacred obligation. This unwavering commitment allowed them to push through decades of setbacks and eventually bring their unique contributions to the world. So ask yourself, are you truly playing for keeps, or are you leaving an escape hatch open? The more you commit, the more seriously you take your calling, the less power resistance will have over you. It's a declaration of self-authorship, a burning of the metaphorical boats that leaves you with only one option: to move forward, to create, and to become the person you were meant to be. Go all in. The professional embraces the work itself, cultivating a profound love of the craft. Stephen Pressfield emphasizes that amateurs are often fixated on the outcome: the fame, the money, the recognition, the finished product. Professionals, however, find their deepest satisfaction and motivation in the process, in the daily engagement with their work. Think about it. Resistance often makes the idea of starting the work painful. It fills your mind with dread, self-doubt, and the sheer effort involved. If your only motivation is the distant reward, it's easy to get discouraged and give up when the immediate experience of the work is challenging. But if you genuinely love the process, if you find joy in the act of creating, then resistance loses much of its power. The professional understands that the work itself is the reward. They relish the act of writing, of painting, of building, of problem solving. They find flow in the deep immersion of their craft. They appreciate the beauty of a well-turned phrase, the elegance of a solution, the satisfaction of a skill mastered. This isn't to say the work is always easy or pleasurable. Far from it. There are days of frustration, boredom, and struggle. But the professional finds a deeper satisfaction in the engagement with the material, in the act of showing up and wrestling with the challenges. This love of the craft is a powerful shield against resistance because it provides intrinsic motivation. You're not relying on external rewards, which are uncertain and often delayed, to keep you going. The joy comes from the act itself. It transforms discomfort. When you love the work, even the hard parts become less daunting. They're just challenges within a beloved activity. It fosters mastery. When you genuinely enjoy the process, you're more likely to put in the thousands of hours required to achieve true mastery. It reduces ego's demands. If the satisfaction comes from the craft, then ego's constant craving for external validation becomes less relevant. He points to great artists and innovators throughout history who were clearly driven by an almost obsessive love for their craft. They worked tirelessly, not because they were promised fame or fortune, but because they were compelled by an inner passion for the work itself. This devotion allowed them to endure decades of obscurity, rejection, and hardship. How do you cultivate this love of the craft? Focus on the present moment of creation. Don't let your mind wander to the finished product or external results. Immerse yourself in the task at hand. Find the joy in the small wins. Appreciate the little breakthroughs, the moments of flow, the satisfaction of solving a problem. Practice deliberately. Engage with your craft in a way that allows for continuous learning and improvement. Return to your roots. Remember what initially drew you to this pursuit. What was the pure, unadulterated joy you felt? Minimize distractions. Create an environment where you can truly immerse yourself without interruption. When you truly embrace the work itself, you disarm resistance's most potent weapon, which is making the start of the work feel unbearable. You become resilient because your motivation is internal and inexhaustible. The journey itself becomes the destination. So, fall in love with the process, cultivate that deep connection to your craft, and you will find an enduring wellspring of energy that will carry you through any creative challenge. The Muse. All right. Having delved into the professional mindset for conquering resistance, let's shift gears into a more ethereal, yet crucial, aspect of Stephen Pressfield's philosophy in The War of Art, the Muse. Understanding inspiration as something beyond purely rational comprehension. This concept often throws people off, especially those of us who are highly analytical, but Pressfield insists it's vital for anyone engaged in creative work. Think about it. Have you ever had an idea seemingly drop into your head out of nowhere? A perfect solution to a problem? A compelling character for a story? A melody that just appears? Where do these flashes of insight come from? Our rational minds like to take full credit, believing it's all a product of our own intellect and hard work. But Pressfield suggests there's a more mystical, external force at play, what he calls the Muse. The Muse, in Pressfield's view, isn't just a metaphor for inspiration. He presents it as a real, independent, spiritual entity that exists in a higher realm, waiting to bestow ideas and creativity upon those who are worthy. It's a divine source, a wellspring of genius that we can tap into. He doesn't ask us to fully comprehend it, but to acknowledge its existence and to understand how we can best attract its favor. The Muse operates beyond our rational understanding, because inspiration isn't something we can force. We can't simply demand a brilliant idea to appear. It often arrives when we least expect it, or when we've been deeply engaged in the work, but not necessarily consciously trying to be inspired. This points to a realm of creativity that transcends our conscious will. Why is this important in the war against resistance? Because resistance thrives on our belief that creativity is solely a product of our own internal finite resources. It tells us we don't have enough good ideas, that we're not talented enough, or that our well has run dry. But if we believe in the Muse, if we believe there's an external, infinite source of inspiration, then resistance's arguments begin to crumble. It provides hope and a sense of connection to something larger. Pressfield argues that the Muse is fickle. It doesn't visit those who are lazy, undisciplined, or waiting for perfect conditions. It visits those who show up, those who put in the hard work, those who consistently knock on its door. The Muse favors the professional, not the amateur. It rewards courage and dedication. Embracing the concept of the Muse means humility about our own genius, recognizing that great ideas often come through us, not just from us. Respect for the creative process, understanding that there's a mystical element to creation that can't always be controlled. Patience and persistence, knowing that inspiration will come, but only if you keep showing up and doing the work. Openness to intuition, paying attention to those sudden flashes of insight or seemingly irrational urges. By acknowledging the muse, you shift your mindset from struggling to generate ideas to actively preparing yourself to receive them. You become a disciplined receiver, ready to capture what the muse offers. This perspective adds a spiritual dimension to the war of art, reminding us that we are part of a larger creative flow. It's not just about grinding. It's about opening yourself to forces beyond your rational understanding and trusting that if you do the work, inspiration will find its way to you. If the muse is an external source of inspiration, how do we, as disciplined professionals, actively attract its favor? Stephen Pressfield in The War of Art gives us the clear answer: hacking the muse. The key to attracting inspiration is consistent, disciplined work. Think about the amateur. They wait for inspiration to strike before they sit down to work. They believe creativity is a lightning bolt that hits them randomly, and if it doesn't, well, they can't possibly work. This is a profound misunderstanding of how the creative process actually functions, and it's precisely what resistance wants you to believe. If you're always waiting for inspiration, you'll rarely, if ever, start. The professional knows better. They understand that inspiration isn't a precondition for work. It's often a result of it. The muse, Pressfield argues, is not a lazy benefactor. It responds to effort, to commitment, to the daily act of showing up. It's as if the muse says, "Show me you're serious. Show me you're willing to do the hard, unglamorous work, and then I'll reward your diligence with ideas." This is why showing up every day is so crucial. When you sit down, even if you feel uninspired, even if the words don't flow, even if the ideas seem stale, you are sending a powerful signal to the muse. You are saying, "I am here. I am ready. I am doing my part." And often it is in that very act of disciplined engagement that the ideas begin to flow, the insights appear, and inspiration finally arrives. This means establishing a consistent routine. Set aside a specific time and place for your work and honor that commitment daily. Beginning, even without inspiration. Don't wait to feel inspired. Just start. Write a bad sentence, draw a bad line, tackle a small part of the problem. The act of starting often generates the energy needed to continue, working through resistance. When you feel the pull of distraction or self-doubt, acknowledge it, but push through it. That's the muse testing your commitment. Being open and receptive. While you're working, be open to ideas that come from unexpected places. Pay attention to your intuition. Treating your work seriously. This isn't a hobby you indulge in when you feel like it. It's a sacred commitment. Pressfield shares examples of artists and writers who understood this principle. They didn't just sit around waiting for genius. They treated their work like a job, showing up every day, putting in the hours. And it was in that consistent grind that the breakthroughs happened, the masterpieces were created. By hacking the muse, through consistent, disciplined work, you remove a major weapon from resistance's arsenal. Resistance loves it when you sit around waiting for inspiration, because it knows that will almost never happen. But when you actively work to attract inspiration, you take control. You demonstrate your worthiness. You tell the universe and the muse that you are ready and willing to receive. So stop waiting and start working. The muse is waiting for you to show up. Expanding on the concept of the muse and external inspiration, Stephen Pressfield introduces another fascinating idea in The War of Art, the Universal Library. The notion that ideas are often out there, accessible to those who show up and do the work. This connects to the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared pool of human experience and archetypes that transcends individual minds. Think about moments when you've had an idea, only to find out someone else had a strikingly similar one around the same time. Or when you discover a story, a concept, or a solution that feels profoundly resonant, almost as if it's been waiting to be discovered. Pressfield suggests this isn't coincidence. He posits that ideas, stories, and solutions exist in a kind of universal library, or supersoul, and they are waiting to be channeled by those who are disciplined enough to access them. This universal library is a metaphor for a deep well of human knowledge, archetypes, and creative potential that we can tap into. It's the idea that creativity isn't solely about inventing something from scratch in our isolated minds, but often about discovering what already exists in this collective consciousness. It's about becoming a receiver, a conduit, for these larger timeless ideas. Why is this important for conquering resistance? Because resistance thrives on the belief that we are finite, isolated, and solely responsible for generating every single idea. It tells us we're not original enough, not smart enough, that we'll run out of ideas. But if we believe in a universal library, if we believe that powerful ideas are out there waiting to be discovered, then our fear of inadequacy diminishes. It provides an endless source of potential, freeing us from the pressure of having to invent everything ourselves. Accessing this universal library, Pressfield argues, is not a passive act. It requires discipline, consistency, and a profound commitment to your work. It's like a librarian who needs to know the catalog and the system to find the right book. Your consistent practice, your deep immersion in your craft, and your willingness to show up every day are the keys that unlock the doors to this library. This means immersing yourself deeply in your craft. The more you know, the more you read, the more you practice, the better equipped you are to recognize and articulate the ideas that come from this deeper source. Showing up consistently. As with the muse, consistent work creates the conditions for ideas to flow. Listening to intuition. Pay attention to those whispers, those sudden insights, those seemingly random connections. They might be messages from the library. Being open to being a channel. Recognize that sometimes the work feels like it's flowing through you, rather than solely from you. Embrace that feeling. Trusting the process. Believe that if you do your part, the ideas will come. By acknowledging the universal library, you take ego out of the equation. You're not trying to prove your individual genius. You're simply trying to connect with a larger, more profound source of creativity. This perspective removes the pressure of absolute originality and replaces it with the joy of discovery and contribution. It allows you to become a humble servant of ideas, drawing from a well that never runs dry. So show up, keep working, and be ready to receive the treasures waiting for you in the universal library. Building on the mystical concepts of the muse and the universal library, Stephen Pressfield offers a transformative perspective on the artist's role, seeing ourselves as a channel for the muse. This isn't just a poetic notion. It's a profound shift in mindset that can liberate us from the ego and self-doubt that resistance uses to hold us back. Think about it. When we identify too strongly with our work, when we believe that we are the sole source of every brilliant idea, every perfect sentence, or every innovative solution, then the pressure becomes immense. Our ego ties our self-worth directly to the quality and reception of our output. If the work is criticized, or if inspiration doesn't strike, our ego crumbles and resistance wins. This is why many aspiring creators get stuck. They're trying to force genius out of a finite individual well. Pressfield argues that the professional, the true artist, in the broadest sense of anyone doing creative work, understands that their role is not to be the sole originator, but to be a conduit, a vessel, a channel through which the muse and the universal library can express themselves. We are the instrument, not the composer. We are the medium, not the message. This perspective is incredibly liberating because it takes the immense pressure off our individual ego. It frees us from the need to constantly prove our own genius. If an idea flows through us, it's not solely ours in the possessive sense. It's something we've been privileged to receive and bring into manifestation. When you see yourself as a channel, it changes everything. It reduces self-doubt. If the ideas are flowing through you, then the fear of not being good enough loses its sting. Your job is simply to show up and be open. It fosters consistency. The channel doesn't wait for inspiration. It prepares itself to receive. This encourages daily practice and discipline. It promotes humility. You give credit where credit is due, acknowledging that you are part of a larger creative process. It detaches you from outcomes. If the work is flowing through you, your ego is less tied to its reception. You're simply the messenger. It encourages resilience. When setbacks occur, it's not a personal failure. It's feedback on how to be a clearer channel next time. Pressfield highlights great artists who spoke of feeling like they were merely taking dictation or translating something already existing in a higher realm. They understood this role of being a channel. They dedicated themselves to honing their craft, not to inflate their ego, but to become a purer, more effective conduit for the muse. Embracing the role of a channel means actively surrendering the ego's need for complete control and credit. It's about trust. Trusting that if you show up, if you put in the disciplined work, and if you prepare yourself to receive, the creative forces will flow through you. You become a powerful instrument for bringing new ideas, beauty, and solutions into the world, not because of your individual genius alone, but because you are willing to be a dedicated servant to the creative process. So let go of the need to be the sole author. Simply be the willing, disciplined channel. Overcoming fear, paving the path to courage and authenticity. Stephen Pressfield insists in The War of Art that fear is the primary weapon in resistance's arsenal, and confronting it is the ultimate act of courage that allows us to live and work authentically. Think about it. What stops you from starting that difficult project? What prevents you from speaking your truth or launching that dream business? More often than not, it's some form of fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough, fear of success, fear of standing out, or fear of losing what you already have. Resistance uses these fears to keep you safe, small, and stagnant in your comfort zone. Pressfield argues that fear is a compass. The more afraid you are of doing something, the more likely it is that that very thing is what you need to do. Because that's where your growth lies, that's where your calling truly resides, and that's precisely where resistance will be most ferocious. It's a spiritual inverse. The stronger the fear, the more important the work. This means that the act of starting, the act of showing up in the face of fear, is an act of courage. It's not about the absence of fear. It's about taking action despite the fear. The professional feels the fear just as much as the amateur, but they don't let it stop them. They understand that fear is resistance's way of testing their resolve. When you consistently confront your fears and push through them, something profound happens. You cultivate authenticity. You start living a life that is true to your deeper self, rather than a life dictated by fear or external expectations. You become more aligned with your purpose, and your work flows more genuinely because you're no longer performing for others or trying to please an internal critic. The path to courage and authenticity involves identifying your fears. Name them. What exactly are you afraid of? Recognizing fear as resistance. Understand that the fear is a signal from the enemy, not a legitimate reason to stop. Acting in spite of fear. This is the most crucial step. Don't wait for the fear to disappear. Just start, even a small step. Building a track record of courage. Each time you act, despite fear, you build confidence and weaken resistance's hold. Embracing vulnerability. Understanding that putting your true self and your authentic work out there involves risk, and accepting that risk. Focusing on the work, not the reception. Let your motivation be the creation itself, not the fear of how it will be received. Pressfield recounts how he himself pushed through decades of fear and failure, choosing to turn pro and show up every day, despite the inner terror. His message is a powerful testament to the fact that courage isn't a personality trait. It's a muscle you develop by consistently choosing to act in the face of fear. By consciously choosing to overcome fear, you reclaim your power from resistance. You open the door to your true potential, allowing you to create the work you were meant to create and to live the life you were meant to live. Don't let fear dictate your destiny. Face it head-on and step onto the path of true courage and profound authenticity. The true self. How fighting resistance helps us reconnect with our deepest calling. Stephen Pressfield argues in The War of Art that when we consistently succumb to resistance, we are not just failing to produce work. We are failing to become who we are truly meant to be. Our deeper, authentic self is inherently linked to our unique creative contribution. Think about it. We all have that inner whisper, that intuitive sense of what we're meant to do or become. It might be a specific artistic pursuit, a humanitarian mission, an entrepreneurial vision, or a commitment to a particular craft. This is our calling, the path that aligns with our highest potential. Resistance, by constantly pushing us away from this calling, keeps us in a state of unfulfillment, a kind of spiritual misalignment. When we give in to procrastination, self-doubt, or distraction, we are essentially choosing to live a smaller, less authentic version of ourselves. We are allowing the external noise and internal fears to drown out the voice of our true self. This leads to a profound sense of dissatisfaction, a feeling that something is missing, even if our external life seems successful. This is because the soul craves expression, growth, and contribution, and resistance actively blocks that. Pressfield argues that fighting resistance is a spiritual battle for your soul. Every time you show up, every time you push through fear, every time you choose work over distraction, you are strengthening your connection to your true self and reaffirming your commitment to your calling. This isn't just about productivity. It's about integrity, about becoming whole. There's a natural yearning at this stage to align our actions with our deepest values, to make a meaningful contribution, and to leave behind something authentic. Resistance, however, targets precisely this yearning, telling us it's too late, too risky, or too difficult. When you consistently engage in your creative work, when you face resistance head-on, you start to strip away the layers of ego, fear, and societal conditioning that have obscured your true self. You start to hear that inner voice more clearly. You reconnect with your innate talents, your unique perspective, and your deepest passions. The act of creation becomes an act of self-discovery, revealing who you truly are and what you're truly meant to contribute. The path to reconnecting with your true self through fighting resistance involves honoring your inner voice. Pay attention to that persistent nudge towards a particular type of work or expression. Committing to regular practice. The daily act of showing up builds the bridge between your conscious self and your deeper calling. Embracing vulnerability. To express your true self, you must be willing to be seen, to be imperfect, and to take risks. Letting go of external expectations. Your true self doesn't care about pleasing others. It cares about authentic expression. Seeing the work as sacred. Treat your calling with the respect and reverence it deserves. Journaling and reflection. These practices can help you uncover the whispers of your true self and your deepest desires. By choosing to engage in the war of art, you are choosing to become more fully yourself. You are choosing to live a life of meaning and purpose, rather than one dictated by fear or the dictates of resistance. Reconnecting with your true self is not just about what you create. It's about the profound transformation that happens within you when you answer your calling. It's the ultimate victory in this spiritual battle. Giving your gift, the profound importance of sharing your work with the world. Stephen Pressfield is clear in The War of Art. Our creative work isn't just for us. It's a gift, a contribution, something we are compelled to bring into existence and then offer to others. Think about it. We all benefit from the gifts of others, the books we read, the music we hear, the innovations that make our lives better, the art that moves our souls. These things exist because someone fought resistance, did the work, and then had the courage to share it. If they had kept it to themselves, locked away by fear or perfectionism, the world would be poorer for it. Pressfield argues that there is a spiritual imperative to give our gift. Our unique talents, our insights, our particular perspectives are not just for our own amusement. They are meant to be expressed and shared. When we hoard our work, when we let resistance keep it hidden, we are denying something vital to the world. We are denying our purpose, and paradoxically, we are also stifling our own growth. Resistance, of course, absolutely hates this idea. It whispers, "It's not good enough. People will laugh. You'll be rejected. Keep it to yourself, it's safer." It leverages fear of judgment and shame to keep your work from ever seeing the light of day. But the professional understands that their job is to complete the work and then to present it, regardless of the outcome. Yet the fear of judgment can be paralyzing. We might have built a reputation that we don't want to jeopardize, or we might simply feel too vulnerable to expose our creative efforts. But Pressfield stresses that the act of giving your gift is itself an act of immense courage and generosity. It completes the creative cycle. It allows for feedback, growth, and the possibility of connecting with others who resonate with your unique expression. It's how you truly impact the world and fulfill your higher purpose. How do you overcome resistance to give your gift? Focus on completion, not perfection. The work doesn't have to be flawless. It just has to be finished and ready to be shared. Embrace vulnerability. Understand that sharing your work means opening yourself to potential criticism or rejection. This is part of the process. Detach from the outcome. Your job is to create and to share. The reception is out of your control. Find your tribe. Seek out people who appreciate your work and offer constructive feedback. Believe in the value of your contribution. Your unique perspective and effort have inherent worth, regardless of how it's received by the masses. Remember the spiritual imperative. Your gift is meant to be shared. It's a sacred obligation. Pressfield implies that there's a cosmic ledger, and when we don't give our gifts, we incur a spiritual debt. By consistently showing up, doing the work, and then bravely offering it to the world, you not only conquer resistance, but also contribute to the collective good. Your gift is vital. Don't let fear or ego keep it from those who need it. The world is waiting for what only you can bring. The importance of territory. Defining and protecting your creative space. Stephen Pressfield emphasizes that the professional not only commits to the work itself, but also establishes and defends the physical and mental space where that work happens. Think about it. Where do you do your most important thinking, planning, or creating? Is it a specific desk, a quiet room, a corner of your home, or even just a set time that you dedicate to your craft? Resistance thrives on chaos, distraction, and a lack of boundaries. If you don't have a designated territory for your creative work, resistance will invade every corner of your life, making it impossible to focus and produce. Pressfield argues that this territory is more than just a physical location. It's a sacred space, a ritualistic space where you declare your intention to work. It's a place where you consistently show up, where you signal to yourself, to resistance, and to the muse that this is where the serious business of creation happens. When you enter this territory, you transition from your daily life into the focused mindset of the professional. This means establishing a physical space. Even if it's just a corner of a table or a specific chair, have a designated spot where you do your creative work. Keep it tidy, organized, and free from distractions. Protecting your time. Your creative hours are non-negotiable. Treat them as sacred appointments. Say no to interruptions, emails, or other demands during this time. Setting boundaries. Communicate your creative hours to family, friends, and colleagues. Help them understand that this is your work time. Creating a routine. The act of entering your territory, sitting down and starting your work should become a habit, a ritual that signals to your brain that it's time to focus. Eliminating distractions within that space. Turn off your phone. Close unnecessary tabs. Clear your mind. Make your territory a fortress against resistance's attempts to pull you away. Embracing boredom. Don't immediately seek distraction if the work gets difficult or boring. Stay in your territory and wrestle with the problem. Without a designated space and time, your creative work will always be relegated to the margins, easily overtaken by the urgent demands of daily life. Pressfield speaks of artists and writers who had specific places and times they worked, treating their creative hours with almost religious reverence. They understood that this territoriality was crucial for consistency and for attracting the muse. Their studios, their desks, their specific routines were their battleground against resistance. By defining and protecting your creative territory, you are actively combating resistance on a tangible level. You are creating a fortress against its attacks, a sanctuary where your most important work can flourish. It's a declaration of your commitment, a signal to yourself and the world that this work is serious, and that you are prepared to defend the space required to do it. So carve out your territory, protect it fiercely, and let it become the crucible where your creative gifts are forged. The spiritual stakes, understanding the profound, almost moral, imperative of doing the work. This isn't just about personal success or fulfillment. Pressfield elevates the battle against resistance to a deeply spiritual level, arguing that there are profound consequences, both for ourselves and for the world, if we fail to bring our unique gifts into existence. Think about it. Pressfield posits that every single one of us is born with a unique gift, a calling, a potential contribution that only we can bring forth. This isn't just about being a great artist or a famous writer. It's about finding and expressing whatever your particular genius or purpose is. When we ignore that calling, when we succumb to resistance and live a life far below our potential, there's a spiritual cost. He suggests that resistance isn't just a psychological phenomenon. It's a force of evil, a negative cosmic energy that opposes all acts of creation and evolution. It's the force that wants to keep humanity stagnant, unfulfilled, and disconnected from its higher purpose. When we give in to resistance, we are not just harming ourselves. We are, in a very real sense, failing to contribute our part to the unfolding of the universe. We are leaving our song unsung, our story untold, our invention unmade. This is the moral imperative of doing the work. It's not optional. It's a duty, a sacred obligation to ourselves, to the muse, and to humanity. When you feel that strong pull towards a creative project or a significant life change, that is your soul calling you, and resistance is the force trying to prevent you from answering. The unlived life, the unexpressed potential, is a profound tragedy. Pressfield is saying, stop. You have a sacred responsibility to your true self and to the world. The spiritual stakes are high because unexpressed potential causes inner suffering. The unlived life exacts a toll on your soul, leading to resentment, bitterness, and a profound sense of emptiness. The world is deprived of your unique gift. What only you can bring forth is lost forever if you succumb to resistance. You are out of alignment with your higher self. Failing to answer your calling means living a life that is fundamentally inauthentic. It creates a ripple effect of unfulfillment. Your unexpressed potential can subtly discourage others from pursuing their own. Pressfield's tone here is almost biblical. He emphasizes that the path of the professional, the path of fighting resistance, is a spiritual journey. It's about more than just personal gain. It's about fulfilling your destiny, about bringing light into the world, and about becoming the person you were truly meant to be. The antidote to succumbing to these spiritual stakes is to internalize this imperative. Understand that your work is not trivial. It matters. It's a profound act of self-actualization and contribution. This understanding can provide an immense source of motivation when resistance is at its strongest. So when you feel resistance rising, when the excuses seem overwhelming, remember the spiritual stakes. Remember that your unique gift is vital. Do not let fear or procrastination steal it from you or from the world. Show up, do the work, and bring forth what only you can create. It is not just a choice, it is your sacred duty. All right, my friends, we've journeyed through the incredibly powerful and challenging insights of Steven Pressfield's The War of Art. We've named the enemy resistance. and seen how it relentlessly works to stop us from doing our most important, creative, and life-altering work. We've discovered its countless disguises, from procrastination and self-doubt to rationalization and perfectionism. We've also learned the profound strategy for victory, turning pro. This isn't about fame or money. It's about adopting a mindset of relentless commitment, discipline, humility, and patience. It's about understanding that our job, our sacred duty, is simply to show up every single day and do the work, regardless of how we feel or what resistance throws at us. We learned that by consistently showing up, we hack the muse, attracting inspiration and tapping into a universal well of creativity. The core message from Stephen Pressfield is clear and unwavering. The most important thing you can do is to simply show up and do the work. All the fears, all the self-doubt, all the distractions, these are just manifestations of resistance, a force designed to keep you from living your true creative life. Your job is to identify it, understand its tactics, and then, with unwavering discipline, act in spite of it. This battle is lifelong. Resistance never truly goes away, but when you understand its nature and commit to the professional mindset, you gain the tools and the courage to meet it head-on. Every single day you show up, you win a victory not just over resistance, but for your soul. You are honoring your true self, cultivating courage, and bringing your unique gift into the world. For those of us in our 40s and 50s, this is more than just a book about writing or art. It's a spiritual guide to living a deeply authentic and fulfilling life. It's a call to arms to stop procrastinating on your dreams and to start creating the life you were meant to live. So what is that resistance whispering in your ear right now? What's the most important work you're avoiding? The answer, according to Pressfield, is not to argue with it or to wait for it to disappear. The answer is simply to show up. What's one small, concrete step you can take today to show up for your calling, in spite of resistance?